Welcome to Podcast Answers, the show where I help you start and grow your podcast. And today we're talking about podcasting. That's right, we are talking about how to start and grow your podcast. And today is going to be a little bit different because we normally in the past I have talked about some kind of advanced topics. I've talked about things like podcasting 2.0 and all of the new tags and all of the fun stuff that happens there and all of that and how all these new things that are happening. And I'm in a couple podcasting groups, and one of them in particular has a lot of people trying to start podcasting. And that's what I'm about. I'm about podcasting and starting podcasting because it's really super easy to do when you know how to do it. But a lot of times people that are just coming into this have no idea what they need to do. And so I thought I would start today and just kind of go back to the basics. Let's talk a little bit about how to podcast and also what that means. So we're talking about what you need when you get started podcasting. And the very first thing I'm going to talk about is you need to decide if you're going to do video. Do you need to do video? Absolutely not. And in fact, I would probably recommend not doing it at first. Now, I do podcast with video. I am on YouTube. This is on YouTube, and you may be watching right here on YouTube, and that's great. But you do not have to actually do that. You can podcast just audio podcasting, and that's great. And I think that's wonderful and easier to actually get started, because if you're video podcasting and if you're actually doing a video, there's a lot more work involved. You have to get a camera like I have here. You have to get make sure that your background is not distracting. You have to worry all about those things. But if you are just doing audio podcasts, you don't actually need to worry about that. You can be in a closet, you can be in the basement, you can be anywhere that you want to be, and you're not going to have this distracting thing going on in the background. And so the very first thing though that you will need is a microphone. That's right, you need a microphone. Now, do you need the most expensive microphone? Absolutely not. The microphone I'm talking to you on is a Shure SM7B, and those microphones run $450, $400, almost $500. And so you don't necessarily need that mic right away. It's a great mic, don't get me wrong. And last time I talked about podcasting mics for beginners. So if you've not listened to that episode, go back and listen to it right now, because I talked a little bit about things that you can do for beginners and microphones that are a good fit for you if you are a beginner. So listen to that episode, because that'll help you out and learn where you need to go as far as microphones for beginners. But once you have your microphone, you need to record your episode, and you can do that a couple different ways. You can record it into audio editing program like Audacity or Adobe Premiere or Adobe Audition or GarageBand or any number of different recording apps that you can record. You can even record on your phone if you have a mic like the Rodecaster or the Rode Podcaster, the USB one that I talked about last time. You could plug that into your phone and actually go right into record right on your phone. And it would sound good. It would sound good. Now, one of the things that you also need to do is then after you've recorded it, you're gonna first off, let's to this. Come up with content. Just record. Like, your first episode is not gonna be that great. It really isn't. You can think about all of the things that you want to think about, and you can get all of your stuff around, but your first couple episodes, they're not going to be great. And I say that because you're just learning how to talk, essentially. You're learning how to podcast. You may know how to talk, and you may do that, but you don't know mic technique necessarily. You don't know how to pace yourself necessarily. You don't know all of the basics that it comes to. I mean, I've been podcasting since 2007, and I'm still learning techniques on how to make a better podcast. So your first couple episodes are not going to be that great. So just get them out there. But that would also, I would say, record a couple episodes. Have a couple in the bag before you actually publish things and get things going. And the reason for that is because you may not realize it, but podcasting does take a lot of work. There's a lot of work involved in podcasting, and it's not necessarily just super, super easy. And so I would say make sure that you get a couple episodes in the bag. That way you can focus on production. You can go and it may take you a little bit to actually get those out and edit them. Again, I don't edit very much on my own podcast. I hit record, I talk, and I'm done. I include the audio as far as music and things go as I'm recording so that I don't need to actually go back and do those later. It's really a great idea. But that being said, it does take some getting used to as far as how to do that and make your show so you don't have to do a lot of editing. So it may take you some time to edit. It may take you more time than you anticipate to edit. So I would say get several episodes and maybe 5 episodes that you can record, have those ready to go, and then when you start your actual publishing, you can still have those spaced out, a week at a time. The great thing about a lot of podcasting hosting is that you can say, I want this episode to release now, this episode to release later, like a week from now, this next episode a month from now. So you can get those things built up and start making content. And so you're not taking time to come up with content and edit and again, until you get used to all of that information, all of how much it actually takes to keep going, how much it actually takes to keep editing your podcast. Because again, it may take you more time than you anticipate. And so be ready for that with a couple episodes in the bag. The next thing that I would recommend doing is I would recommend having, you're going to have to have a podcast host and cover art. And you don't have to have music. Let's talk about music first. You don't have to have a music intro like I did. You don't have to have the in there, but you can. Now, there are sites that allow you to have royalty-free music, and I would check those out if I were you. You can check things out, like YouTube has an audio library that you can use. The other thing that I would check out is there's lots of other sites that you can buy music from. Pond5 is a great one. We've used those before in some of our podcasts. And it allows you to have just kind of some audio branding, if you will. And so you don't have to. You can go right into it, cut into it, and go. You don't have to have the audio branding if you don't want. But if you want to get something like the audio branding I use in this podcast, there are a lot of different ones, but you have to have a license for it, or it has to be available for you to use. You cannot just grab a music and think, well, no one's going to hear it. It's not that big of a deal. The algorithms will find you and will get you, and they will come after you. So don't use audio if you don't have the rights to it. Don't use the audio if you don't have the rights to it. The next thing that you're going to want to do is you're going to think about cover art. And so you can easily create cover art in Canva or another program like that. It needs to be 3000 by 3000 pixels. And again, you can make text large on it, because while 3000 by 3000 is a pretty large file size and a pretty large dimensions if you're looking at it full screen. But if you're looking at it itty bitty on your iPad or your iPhone, that's going to be hard to read. So make text very legible, make it clean, don't put a lot of information in it. Randy Black is watching now, and he says copyright infringement is no joke. Avoid it to keep money in your wallet. That is correct. That is correct. Make sure you don't infringe on copyright, because they will come after you. So back to the cover art. So yeah, 3000 by 3000 pixels, and you can go down to 1400 by 1400. But I would recommend going the 3000 by 3000, because a lot of things, if you're watching on your TV or something like that, you're going to want the larger file sizes. So start with something like 3000 by 3000, because that will that will be the best. Nothing bigger and nothing like lower than 1400 by 1400. But you do need to make sure that it is square. So 1400 by 1400 or 3000 by 3000, but that's going to be square. You do need to make it square. And then you are, after you get that in your cover art in there, and again, we are going back to the basics today because I've talked a lot about podcasting 2.0 stuff and stuff that is new and upcoming, but I wanted to get back to the basics as far as if you were just starting your podcast. So that's why we're talking about the basics today. So after you get your cover art and everything and your files edited, and I would probably, again, start with, I would say a minimum of 5 episodes that you have in their bag before you actually start publishing, just so you can get used to it and get in a rhythm and in a groove. But the next thing you're going to need is an actual podcast host, somebody that's going to be able to actually place your files somewhere to make them available for the public. Now, there are free podcast hosts, and you can do that. It's very acceptable to do that. It's gonna be, you get what you pay for. So I will say that you do get what you pay for, and so because you do get what you pay for, free may not be what you actually want, right? Free may not be what you want. So I almost call it Anchor. Spotify for podcasters is a free one. You can also put them up on YouTube. Lots of people are starting to do that and mark their playlist as a podcast. You can do that. But I'm warning you again, you get what you pay for. So if you go on Spotify for creators, you have to explicitly say that you want to make this available to other podcasting things, not just Spotify. And then on YouTube, that's the only place that you can watch your podcast at, or whatever, listen to it at, is on YouTube. Thank you again. Randy has said, never post your media on your own web host. If you take off, traffic might get you kicked off of your web host. And again, that's because you are pulling more bandwidth than you're supposed to. Yes, a lot of things will say unlimited bandwidth or unlimited files, but they don't actually mean that. So don't actually do that on your own web host if you have a web host. So what I would recommend is something like Blueberry or Captivate or Libsyn or some other place that's specifically made for podcasting. And the reason you want to do that is because A, they have the bandwidth for that and won't kick you off. And you get some stats from that. You'll know actually what your listeners, how many listeners you have approximately, how many people are downloading it and things like that. So once you do that, you create your show on their thing, you upload your media to it, and then you have a podcast, right? Yes, but you also now need to make sure people can find it. And so you need to actually list your podcast at directories. So Apple Podcasts, Podcast Index, those are the first couple places that are I would say you start with, especially because those are going to get you a majority of the apps that you're going to be in. But to do that, so when you create your show on your podcast host, so Captivate, Libsyn, Blueberry, whatever, they will give you an RSS feed. And essentially that's just a text file with description and title and link to the media file. You take that link and you go to podcastindex.org and you add your podcast to it. You go to Apple Podcasts, podcastconnect.apple.com. You submit a show there. And that'll get you in the majority of the apps because a lot of the apps pull from one of those two directories. There are definitely more, and I've gone into some of them before, but do that. And once they've been approved there, now people can find you on normal podcast apps and directories. And so that is the basics of creating a podcast. That's really all it is. Coming up with episodes, recording, and editing. And that can be, you don't have to edit. Again, I don't do any editing on my shows. Most of my shows are not edited. I'm using a Rodecaster, so I can put in sounds and I can do all of that as I'm recording. And then get cover art, create your show on your podcast host, submit to podcast directories, and you're good to go. You are good to go. So that's the basics of creating a podcast. If you want to have help doing some of that, I'm available for you. podcastanswers.com/contact. We can do one-on-one contacts. You can ask me more questions one-on-one. I can help you. I do consulting. I do the work for you too. So if you do decide you edit, Randy Black says, editing, what's that? But that is true. But if you do want to edit, I'm available for that. So again, podcastanswers.com/contact will get you in my inbox, and I can help you create your podcast. Have a great week and keep podcasting.